everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we hope you all had a wonderful June and enjoyed a Passport to Love on Hallmark Channel. I think we all agreed that this was a definite upgrade from June Brides, but it was a bit uneven, I would say, as far as these four movies. But we're going to have fun talking about them. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Marisa Serafini's here.
Hello, Rachel. Yes, we're back.
Yes.
I'm back. I mean, you're always here, but I'm back again. Thank you.
Yeah, how are ya?
I'm good. We were talking beforehand, but like we're just busy working women, constantly tired physically, mentally, but yet we're still here watching Hallmark like true fans.
I think we need even more. We need that break because we're so busy with work that we need the Hallmark break.
Right. And like
Unwind.
I was kind of jealous of all these women traveling. I was like, oh man. I was like, I'm so busy in my life. I want to just travel to another country too. Actually, I will be very soon.
Oh yeah, where are you going?
I'm going to Dominican Republic.
Ooh, fun.
I've never been.
I never have either.
I legit have been working so much. My boss told me to take a vacation. So I'm like, all right, if the big guy says so. So I legit, my birthday weekend, I'll be on a tropical island, avoiding all the people.
So fun.
I know, I'm very excited. I haven't been on a proper vacation since 2017.
Oh my gosh.
To date it.
Wow. Yeah, I am going down to southern Utah just for a little theater trip down to the Utah Shakespeare Festival. But that's the only travel with my friends that I have planned. Nothing outside of Utah because I'm stupid poor at the moment. But hopefully things will turn out. But I would love to be able to just relax and travel. And I told my dad, I said, can we at least go boating one time, please? There's nothing I love more than boating. Or the beach. That's like my favorite.
Yeah, and you love swimming. So yeah,
I love swimming.
Sense.
Yeah, and they aren't doing the races this year. I'm so sad.
How dare they?
Yeah.
How dare they? Have you watched The Women at Sea? Sorry, we're totally not talking about Hallmark right now.
Loved it.
I still haven't seen it, but immediately, when I heard of the premise, and I was like, woman crossing the channel. I was like, Rachel might know something about this.
Yeah. In fact, I've read the book about Trudy Edderly. Her book that's called The Great Swim they probably now titled it Young Woman in the Sea, but at the time it was called The Great Swim. And what a fascinating woman and interesting experience that she had. And the book, even if you're not a swimming person, it's a really interesting book because it's not just about the swim, but it's about tabloids, it's about media, it's about women at that time, just so many different things. And the movie, it definitely hits those like inspirational sport buttons, and that you want. But I really like those kind of movies. I'm a big fan of movies like Miracle and McFarlane USA, and like inspirational, even something like Rocky, or I like your kind of inspirational sports movies. And so this was a lot of fun. And I'm dying to know they have a really cool tiny little pool that they train in that's like it's like in a boiler room. I'm like, how did you find this place? Like, it's because like women swimming had to be like hidden away. Like, how did they find this pool? And I mean, it might just be some kind of set or something, but it just looked really cool. It's like, I would love to go to that pool.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
And all the different steps and the people who tried to kind of sabotage her along the way. And it was only in theaters for like 2 weeks, which is a big bummer because it was a good film. But definitely look out for it on Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. My guess is I wouldn't be surprised if they release it on Disney Plus during the Olympics. That would make sense.
Totally. That totally makes sense. Mm-hmm. Such a motivational, athletic.
Yeah. And she was an Olympian. She didn't end up winning a gold medal, but she was an Olympian. So, yeah. makes sense.
Yeah, but it's
So
the same type of mentality too.
Yeah.
So, you just got to appreciate those type of stories.
Yeah. And for me, this year, as far as feature films, has been pretty not great. I have been drinking grumpy juice all over the place because just a lot of these releases I just haven't enjoyed. I did like Inside Out 2. I much more than I thought I was going to like it, but I did end up liking it. And there's like a couple others, but man, most of them I have not enjoyed. I didn't like The Fall Guy. I didn't like If. I didn't like the Apes movie. I thought it was so boring.
No.
I didn't like the Ghostbusters movie. I didn't like Kong X Godzilla. It's been rough.
Wow. See, I did like Fall Guy. I didn't like Inside Out 2 as much as I would. I thought, because I watched Inside Out 1, obviously, in theaters the day.
Yeah.
And I saw that twice in like 6 hours.
Yeah. It wasn't perfect,
it was
but
so good.
I was really nervous about it. So maybe low expectations helped.
I didn't like Inside Out 2 because it felt I thought it was a little too complex for children. I was like, children aren't this is totally gonna go over people's heads. Me as an adult with diagnosed anxiety, like I felt it and understood it, but I was like, oh shoot,
but I didn't really feel like it was
a lot.
Yeah, I didn't really feel like it was made for children though. I felt like it was more made for teens. So that's the way I was kind of looking at it, as sort of for teens.
Yeah,
and when you're a teen, you go through Friends so much. It's like such a hard time, and I liked the way that that Friendship Island was like a huge thing, and then Family Island was like 2 people,
Very
and
true.
because that is so true to when you're a teenager, you think that your friends mean everything to you, and
they're more important than your family.
And then you graduate from high school, and then you hardly ever talk to those people ever again.
Nope.
Most people, at least.
They'll learn. Don't worry. And then family becomes the most important. There's always that balance.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect. Like the portrayal of anxiety as this villain, I was like, oh, I don't love that. But I thought it had enough good that I did enjoy it. But yeah, it's been rocky for me this year. But thankfully we have some, including one Hallmark movie that I really loved out of these 4. There was one that I loved, one I thought was okay, 2 that I thought were exceptionally boring.
I'm interested and curious to see
which
ones you liked and didn't.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
First one is For Love and Honey. And this stars Andrew Walker and Margaret Clooney. And it's directed by Kevin Fair and writers Caitlin D. Friars and Michelle Ricci. And it's beekeeper Eva uncovers an ancient fresco while rescuing a hive. Austin, a visiting archaeologist, thinks it's his key to his research. So he persuades Eva to help him on his quest across Malta. So overall, what do you think of this one?
I thought it was a very solid storyline. There was so much, we love a good mystery, especially if they go down this, there's a big story, let's figure this out, put the puzzle pieces together. I love those kind of things.
Yeah.
I thought the storyline was pretty solid. And it sounded legit into like the way where like maybe I should fact check some of this because I was like,
About
I
Malta?
believe them. He
Yeah.
says he has a PhD in archaeology. I was like, I certainly don't. So like whatever he says, I'm just
Yeah.
at face value.
Yeah.
I was like, I learned a few facts. I was like, is that real? Is that true? Maybe.
Maybe.
So, I really appreciated like the history and how it kind of tied different countries together, and
Yeah.
just like kind of this universal theme that everyone's looking for prosperity and
Yeah.
health and happiness and stuff. I really did enjoy it. It did come together and tie in a nice bow. So I thought
Yeah.
it had a very solid storyline.
Mm. Yeah, I have to say these Hallmark movies that are sort of researchy, it's like, they're all trying. I think a lot of them are trying to be signed, sealed, delivered. Oh, we got a letter or a picture or a locket or a ring, and then we have to research it, and they're usually not for me. I mean, signed, sealed, delivered is the exception to the rule because Martha Williamson is such a good writer, and the characters are so dynamic, and you have 4 characters to focus on, not just 2. And so it doesn't really matter like whatever shenanigans they're like looking into, it almost is irrelevant because it's about these characters. But a lot of times these movies bore me to soup, and this movie bored me out of my mind. I was just like, oh my gosh. I mean, there was once she sees that fresco on the thing, she moves the beehive. When she sees that fresco, I swear, like 80% of this movie was them staring at walls. They were just like staring at the walls. I was like, I can't believe how much of this movie is staring at walls. Sincerely, like Andrew Walker is a human, and I think he can be very talented. But man, he picks a lot of projects that I don't love. Yeah, a lot of movies that. Like his Africa movie was so bad, and then this one, and I really hate his one with Lacey Chabert, and I don't know, he's just a lot. It's like, you shouldn't be getting the cream of the crop, the best of the best. You're one of the biggest talents. Why are you getting these scripts?
Maybe he just wanted to go to Malta.
Maybe he did just want to go to Malta in Africa. I don't know.
Despite the script and the story and his character, it gets me out of the country.
Yeah. And you didn't really get to see that much of Malta. I'm like, why are we staring at this fresco for so long? Let's go see it.
I think like the most we saw in Malta was probably that end drone shot. I was like, oh, where are they? That's a cool location.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It was like they could have filmed this almost anywhere and just put in a bunch of stock.
Yeah, pretty much.
Stock imagery. But the other problem that I had with this movie is that I think that the sister Chloe was a genuinely better character. More likable, more engaging. She was more fun.
Too. I have to say, and like this was a recurring theme for me, and definitely for all 4 of these films. I like the secondary characters more than the main characters.
Her little like relationship with the mayor was kind of cute, and I was just like, we're focusing on the wrong character because they had very little chemistry. I didn't even think it should have been a romance. There was like hardly any. It was all just work. It was business.
Right. I have it in my notes. Matthew and Chloe, not Matthew, Matthew. And I put, they're cute.
Yeah, right.
Like they definitely had chemistry. I wanted to know more about them. Like, because they had supposedly a night together. They were planning the whole festival, and I was like, I want to see that. So give me a montage of them planning this big event.
Yeah, and she was just fun. I don't know, just a more like charming character than the lead character.
And she was
Ava.
Yeah, she was very supportive and realistic. Like I was part of this business just to be with you, just to spend time with you. I'm like, oh, what a good sister. You're darling. Give her more time.
Yeah.
It's like when the main character was just there begrudgingly taking up like obligations and keeping this business alive. Like, the sister actually wanted to be there.
Yeah, and then at the end, when the everything gets shut down, and Andrew Walker's character gets all Austin, he gets all jerky with her, saying, I wasted so much time with you. Didn't not get anything done. I was like, this is a romance, right? Like, I was watching, I'm like, what? I mean,
that's a terrible line. Like,
so it made the ending completely unbelievable when he said something so mean not that long before.
Right. No, that was not a good choice of words. I'm like,
No.
dude. And it's like, no, you spent so much time focused on something you didn't, or that he could have worded it so much better.
Yeah. They did have a pretty early kiss in this movie, which I guess did help with the romance at all. But since I wasn't feeling chemistry and it was all just a bunch of business, it didn't really, it was kind of like out of nowhere.
I wasn't
It wasn't
feeling
that sexy
with her. We've definitely proven that Andrew Walker, he can be charming and have chemistry with a lot of different. I wasn't getting much emotion from her at all. So I think
like you just wasn't, there was no spark.
Yeah.
Between them.
There was no honey. There was no sugar.
There's no honey between them.
It really wasn't.
It really wasn't. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is the staring at walls movie. Like, how much?
Walls.
There's an old Siskel and Ebert quote where he says that he'd rather watch a movie about these actors eating lunch. And I feel like I would rather watch a documentary about these actors eating lunch than this movie. Because these are
maybe not eating lunch.
Interesting people. Like, I don't know. I just felt like, how can a script get sold where so little happens? And yet, like, you read the description, you think, oh, all this like archaeology and stuff. Mm-hmm. But like, that's the thing, is that like research by its very nature is just not exciting. There's a reason why in Indiana Jones movies, you don't see him like holed up in the library doing all the research before he goes to his like digs and his other stuff. Like, we don't, that's not exciting. Like, we don't need to know how he figured out that where this, artifact was buried or whatever. Like, all the legwork that probably went into that, super boring. We want the adventure. We want the research is research. It's just not that exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I appreciate about the story, because it was so research information. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's just the nerd in me. I was like, ooh, fascinating. Again, I wanted to fact check everything, just to see if it was accurately correct.
I could see
but
that.
It's also, when you watch it, it was like, you could. This is going to sound terrible, but you can watch this movie just listen to this movie. You really don't have to watch this movie.
It's true.
It's so dialogue information heavy. You're not going to miss anything.
It's true, because you don't need to see the fresco that they're staring at for. You just hear them.
And then there's a whole nother layer under the fresco too, and like even that, and there was like a whole scene like, oh, we got to get a battery and XYZ, and then once we see the second layer, like, well, that's not interesting either. That's not artistic, and it's like three figures. Okay.
Yeah, it made me yearn for like the Da Vinci Code. Like, why don't you watch that instead of this?
I mean, it made National Treasure Declaration of Independence more interesting.
Yes, that
second layer was more interesting.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So this one for me, I would give it like two crowns for me.
Okay,
it was rough.
I'll give it higher 3, because quite honestly, out of the 4, I like this one more than most, mostly because of the story and the writing. So I'll give it like 3.5.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So then we have Savoring Paris, and this is Bethany Joy Lentz and Stanley Weber. And it's directed by Claire Meterprum, and writer Joie Botkin. Victoria Bromley is the book. So this is based on a book. Victoria Bromley wrote the book. And it's disillusioned with her life, Ella embarks on a soul-searching journey to Paris, where she navigates love, self-discovery, and cheese in the enchanting backdrop of the city of love. So for me, this was by far the highlight of the 4. I thought it was really strong. I really liked that they allowed her to like kind of breathe in Paris. Like, she actually basically moves there. She ends up spending 3 months there. She actually works with this guy for a bit, and they get to know each other. I liked the fact that this playboy was a pretty edgy character for a Hallmark movie. Like but he's not like a villain. He's not really portrayed as a bad guy. This just likes, this is just him. And he's never dishonest about kind of what he likes and what he is and who he is. And it's just not, end up being the guy for her. But he was pretty charming, I thought. And, her like coming to realize that she wants more than this sort of business life that she's accepted in the States, and that maybe she can do this like crazy thing of moving to Paris, and they fell in love, I thought, pretty authentically. I bought it. And Paris is beautiful, and I mean I think it's one of the best Hallmark movies of the year for me. Yeah, I really liked it. And I think you really saw her grow as a character. Like she just kind of settled for this life. She'd had this amazing experience with the croque monsieur in Paris. And so when she, like, it was very effective the way the screenplay was set up, because she has this fast food version of croque monsieur basically at the beginning. And she just realizes like she has settled for this disgusting version of what was great in her life, and she knows she needs to make a change. But I can understand how like you would feel like, I can't do that. That's crazy. I can't do that. How can I move to Paris? Like, that's crazy. And then she just like takes one chance, and then she takes another and another and another. And even her mother keeps telling her, like, what are you doing? Like, you can't be here. But she's just like, no, I'm going to do it. And so I really liked her progression as a character, and just like how authentic the relationship felt for a Hallmark movie, that it was allowed to like bloom and grow over time. Cheese. Yeah. Or cheese. It was allowed to age like fine cheese.
Like cheese.
But it sounds like you weren't as big a fan. What do you think of it?
I mean, first of all, you had me at cheese. I love cheese.
Yeah.
I am a lactose intolerant, but I refuse to give up cheese. So,
yes.
So the cheese has a special place in my heart. Seriously, the movie should have been called Savory and Cheese. But
yes,
I mean, when I first watched this, because I kind of watched it like 1.5 times just to like make sure I didn't miss anything, because I kind of blacked out in the last second half.
Yeah, we're tired.
It started off strong for me, and then I felt like it lost momentum a bit. I did like the two opposing guys, that like definitely foils in the different personalities, and it's not like you completely disliked each of them. And, they both had their qualities, and you can see why she'd be interested in both. The cat, they kept
the food critic, Gaston.
Yeah, Gaston. I mean, like, handsome, blue eyes, good,
very handsome.
But who doesn't like cheese? I'm like, that's a big red flag for me. Come on, dude.
For real.
And so I was like, oh, well, we know that's not going to work out.
Yeah.
And then the other guy, Serge, with the cheese, like, I did like you said, there was a progression, and they actually did have chemistry.
Yeah, they did.
And like you kind of had to work up to that. That took some time, so I did appreciate it near the end. I felt like the format of this movie didn't feel like a Hallmark movie.
No, I agree. In fact,
a lot of text messages, subtitles, or like
true.
Her inner thoughts, but they still popped up like a text bubble. So I'm like, is this a conversation with herself?
Yeah.
I was actually watching.
That's
I was like,
true.
is this an acquired movie? Because maybe it was just one of those movies that wasn't specifically for Hallmark. Maybe it was just shopped around and Hallmark acquired it.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Hallmark movie.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I felt like watching them, like, was this originally planned to be a pilot for a series? Because it did feel like, okay, we're getting introduced to a lot of characters. Right. And I think they did a pretty good job of kind of wrapping everything up, but it did feel kind of like, okay, like I could watch, because she's like moving, and there was just a lot of it that felt like, okay, we're starting like a series to me. It felt almost more like a pilot.
Yeah, there were a lot of characters too, because we had the mother, who was very judgmental and not very supportive, and then we had that French friend Clotilde, And nothing against her, but at the end of it, I was like, what was her purpose?
She was just the one who was like there to say, well, why don't you move here? Like the one to kind of be the person to make those suggestions, because she wouldn't have done it herself. And even the mom was, I think, a pretty well-written character, because she says to her mom, there's no reason, I have nothing for me there. And her mom's just kind of like,
there's nothing waiting for me.
That stings because I'm there, like, and so she wasn't just like an unreasonable brat, her mom. Like, you could understand why that might hurt your feelings like a little bit. And so, yeah, it did feel kind of like, this feels like the competition to Emily in Paris, except for Emily in Paris isn't very good. But this is like, I really like these characters and I like these people, and I would watch the show if it was a pilot to a show. I would watch because I genuinely enjoyed it.
Cheese.
Yeah,
I would watch that. All the different cheeses. And it's so funny because like I love cheese. I was also very jealous that she's like, you just pay me in cheese and I can eat 5 cheeses a day. I was like, girl, you're gonna gain a lot of weight. But I know this is a movie. That's actually very exciting. And they kept listing all these cheeses. I was like, well, you have 365 cheeses. Where are the other cheeses? Tell me more. I want to know about the cheeses.
But she was like walking quite a bit though in Paris and stuff. So I bet like she'd burn off a lot of that cheese calories.
I would hope so, because like the first 2 times she went to that cheese place, like she eating like bricks of cheese. I was like, girl, you're eating that all by yourself. Good for you.
For the most part, I really liked her fashion. It felt almost a little it felt almost a little Sex and the City inspired to me. And Carrie goes to Paris, but when they throw her that party, I hated her dress in that scene. It was just not for me. But for the most part, she looked really cute. And she's so reliable in these movies.
Yeah. I do like her as an actress. Because
I mean,
even if movie this past Christmas season was my favorite Christmas movie out of all 40 plus of them.
I hated that dress in that movie as well, but I but yeah, I can think of, even if I wasn't like in love with the movie, she always delivers. I can't think of a bad performance that I've ever seen from her.
Yeah, she's very solid.
Her. The book is called Fromage à Trois. Fromage à Trois. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Okay.
And I have to say, like, Claire Niederprum, when she first started making Hallmark movies, I was resistant, because she made this version of Little Women that I absolutely hated. It was one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and like Little Women is close to my heart.
Right? How do you mess up Little Women?
Yeah, it was very bad. But she has proven herself time and again to be good at making these Hallmark movies, so I can officially forgive her for her Little Women. But this is now her second movie set in Paris that I've enjoyed, because she did her pen pal, which was also written by Joie Boken. So Joie Boken and Claire Niederprum, they're crushing it with the Paris movies.
Well, that's a good relationship to have, because it keeps really going to Paris. Shoot. Yeah. Darn it. I've only been there once.
Yeah. And I liked that I liked the way that Serge and Ella's relationship grew kind of authentically, especially for a workplace romance that's kind of tricky, because you don't want to seem predatory. And also the fact that they didn't like shame Gaston. He's not like a villain really at all. He's just like living his life, and this is how he lives. And so, they get close to that scene. He says that he has feelings for her. Serge has feelings for her. And she has just agreed to go on this date with Gaston. And so now she's feeling conflicted. And so she is like, well, I have to kind of break things off with Gaston. And of course, when she does, he's like, "Oh, I was just having fun." Like,
Right. I love how you make me feel,
but he thinks, "Oh no, like she's interested in this other guy. It's over." And when he would kind of complain to to his was his brother? I can't remember, but him starting to, it's always fun when you have in these movies when you have the guy getting heartsick, lovesick.
Yeah.
You were feeling that with him. And so yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was really good, so I would give this one a 4. This was really solid Hallmark movie in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll give it a 3.
Yeah, okay, good. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's Harlan Publishing and best-selling author Rayanne Thane and her new book, 15 Summers Later. 15 summers ago, everything changed. Ava Howe had it all: true love, a best-selling memoir, and a life far away from Emerald Creek. But a hidden secret from her past shattered her perfect world. Now she's back home facing the only person who truly understands. Madison Howell has built a life she loves, running a no-kill animal shelter and secretly pining for the town veterinarian, Dr. Luke Gentry. But a secret haunts them both. The Howell sisters must confront their past to heal their future. Can they mend the rifts in their lives and find solace together? Experience the power of resilience, family, and love in 15 Summers Later by Rayanne Thane. The perfect beach read for anyone needing a story of hope and healing. Now available wherever books are sold or by using the affiliate link below. That's 15 Summers Later by Rayanne Thane. We know you'll love it. All right, so then we have a Greek recipe for romance. And this is stars Danielle C. Ryan and Raphael Kiritakis, and director Colin Thays. Writers Mandy Bagot, Keith Hemstreet, Katie Kerr. Hiccup. Okay, after a recent setback, Abby heads to Greece to visit her mom and decide what's next. While there, she meets Theo and they team up to open a restaurant. But will Abby be able to stay? So for me, this one, I actually thought it was okay. I didn't love it as much as Savor in Paris for sure. I thought it was like serviceable. There were enough like swoon-worthy scenes of them. Like there were a lot of eating scenes. And when I talked to Danielle,
So many.
I interviewed her. She just talked about, because that's rough for actors having to do a lot of eating scenes. And there were a lot in this movie, but they did a good job, I thought, making it look yummy. And maybe it helps that I've been to Greece. And I like Greek food a lot. And so a lot of the escapism parts of this one worked pretty well for me. I thought he was super dreamy. He was really, really good. And I like Danielle. And by no means a masterpiece, but I thought it was serviceable. What about you?
Oh, okay. Well, yes, I agree. It was okay.
Yeah.
Theo, I was like, how mean can we be on the show? I was like, he's handsome. We get it.
he's
Physically,
very handsome.
dreamboat. I mean, hello, God. But man, he was a jerk. It was such a big red flag for me. I was like, and then like the first we start off with their quote unquote mute cute on the bike, and it was like, well, there's so many other cars, you could have parked in front of her, standing in front of her.
Yeah.
What?
Like,
just like he had no tact and no politeness.
mhm.
And I was like, okay, he's already a jerk. So if he's treating a stranger woman like this, who else is going to treat like that? So
I also didn't like that he threw away her food. Like, just because it's not like a perfect gyro doesn't give you the right to take it from her hands and throw it away.
Throws it out. I was like, and I do Krav Maga. I was like, you touch me, I'm gonna like you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take you down to the ground. No one. That first. So like again, second red flag. And then he said a line about, I don't know anything about customer service. Like, no, you don't know anything about tact. There's a difference.
Yeah.
He was just not, like, personality wise, I did not like him. He's a giant red flag. Girls, this is not your type of man. Like, this personality,
yeah, I can see
no
that.
matter
He was
how
a little
handsome
bit.
he was a jerk. I did not
Yeah.
like him. So he started off really rough for me, and even at the end, it was like too much. I still couldn't. It wasn't really redeemable
Yeah.
for me. I'm like,
I can see that. He was a little bit unlikable. they kind of work together trying to make this restaurant and stuff like that. But and he's got all this angst about his dad, and you're supposed to kind of feel bad for him because his dad doesn't want to invest in his business and his dreams, and then he ends up doing it. But yeah, he was a little bit pushy. I can see that. Yeah, it's fair. And it wasn't like the most exciting plot in the world of like I guess, and also her mother looked. There's absolutely no way that woman is this woman's mother. They look like the same age.
Yeah, no, I thought so too. I was like, girl, did you have her at like 10?
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Hallmark's always bad about that, but this is one of the most egregious. She did not look anywhere near old enough to be her mother.
I completely agree too. Yeah. But I did like the line. She was like, "Do what you love. Don't wait for the time to be right." I was like, okay, she's the character full of wisdom. She is she's not the overbearing mother that we've gotten in other movies too. Yeah. Can I say a really vain comment? This bothered me so much. It really took me out of the movie throughout the entire movie. But her makeup for the main character, Abby's character, her makeup and her face did not match the rest of her body. And literally she's in sleeveless shirts throughout this entire movie, and she's got like a red undertone to her skin. So it's not her fault. It was really the makeup, but her face was so white and cakey and pasty, and
that's also the lighting.
Look right.
These films tend to be oversaturated in the lighting.
It just didn't.
And especially when you have somebody as fair as Danielle is, with blonde hair, fair, and the makeup. I do agree with you there, and that it can be too much. It can be too much.
It's nothing. Obviously, it's nothing against her look or what. It's just like makeup was so visually off and bad. It really took me out of it. I was like, no, there are better makeup.
Yeah,
that you could.
Yeah, that's fair. There was a lot more of Grease than in the Malta movie of Malta. That's for sure. And so I felt like I got to see, and at least there was a lot of like food scenes. I guess that's what it does it for me when you have lots of food scenes.
Yeah, and I love how she was like listing. It's like, well, you got to have the X and Y and spanakopita, and I was like, those are the typical Greek food. I was like, do you know anything else?
Yeah, that's true. It would have been kind of fun if they had moved past spanakopita and baklava and stuff like
American.
That. But
who only knows
it was a very businessy movie, talking a lot about this restaurant and her restaurant back home and her, it's everything and what's going on. So it's I would probably give this one 3. I'd give this a 3.
Ooh, I'd give it 2.5.
2.5. Okay. Yeah. That's fair. It's fair.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Our last one we have is 2 Scoops of Italy. And this stars Hunter King and Michelle Roselio. And it's director Roger M. Bob, writers Eric Brooks, Nicole Baxter, Abdi Nazemian. When an American chef travels to a quaint village in Italy for inspiration, she falls in love with the flavors, culture, gelato, and the Italian gentleman who helps her discover it all. And we were very excited when we saw this because when I interviewed Hunter 2 years ago in 2022, I said, you got to make a movie in Italy. Because she'd made a movie in Ireland. We're like, all Hallmark movies are There were just a lot. They were in Ireland or Italy. And here she's in a movie in Italy. We manifested. It was very
You
exciting.
definitely manifested it. I love when that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it's all you. Credit to you.
Yeah, I don't want the credit because I don't like this movie.
Well,
I like Hunter.
Right,
I do. But man, this writer Nicole Baxter, I'm sure she's a lovely human, but she is the most inconsistent for sure of Hallmark writers. She has some really good ones. Like I love one called The Presence of Love. That's a favorite. But she has some terrible ones. She had one last year called Aloha Heart, which was really bad. Yeah, she has some real bad ones. And this one, I mean, I just felt like nothing happened until the last 20 minutes, until she finally has to decide, like, what does she want to do? Does she want to stay there? Does she want to go back? Does she want to, she's just, it was like watching somebody's home movies of their trip in Italy. Like, sure, that's fun, I guess, but I don't know, these people are Like, I mean, there was just nothing happened for I'm like, how did you get this script approved? Like, because I'm thinking about writing my own script and I'm working on something. And it's like, how does something work? Practically nothing happens but eating various flavors of gelato for at least 45 minutes of this 80-minute script, at least that long. There was just nothing.
Yeah, there's a lot of sitting and talking.
A lot of sitting and talking. And it wasn't that
and it's insightful
too, about life
what
or
if
something.
We
it was just
this ingredient and this ingredient and this ingredient, and well, maybe we should change this ingredient. And well, then do it.
I put rosemary in the gelato. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Pistachio, and the whole the first starting conversation, or she's already criticizing with the pistachios. Girl, I wouldn't know, but that's not how you tell someone oh, this is how you do it better. No, just eat your darn gelato and get out.
Yeah. And he was so devastated that people just wanted chocolate. And I'm with those people because salt and straw and stuff like that. Not for me. Most of the time those where people are putting blue cheese and weird stuff. And no, I would way rather have just a classic vanilla, or with a little bit of hot fudge sauce maybe on, or a classic chocolate. I don't need it to have grasshoppers or weirdo stuff. No.
It's called classic for a reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I have nothing against ice cream. Again, I'm lactose intolerant, so I haven't had ice cream or real gelato or any type of American ice cream in years. So I wouldn't really know.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. They just kept talking about it. Oh, I gotta build the menu, and we're not seeing her build on this menu. She's focusing more on gelato. Girl, you're helping him, but you're not helping your problem.
No, at all. Really at all.
And at the end, did she manage to do her menu? I still don't know.
I guess, because then he moves to America to be with her.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh yeah, my whole life I'm gonna be with you." I'm like, dude, where did this come from? That was totally left field. I was like, you literally have a business. We just spent an hour and a half talking about how to make your gelato better for your said business, and now you're gonna up and leave it to be with her in America.
Yeah, because he thought that life didn't exist beyond the little square, beyond their little world. And then that's why his dad at the end is like, no, you've always thought that, but it's not true. You can go beyond it. And that's what I mean. The last 20 minutes, I'm like, okay, finally something is happening. Okay. But I liked both of these actors individually, but together they had nothing. No chemistry at all. Yeah. I didn't think.
I mean, Giancarlo, out of all four of the main characters that we saw, I like Giancarlo's personality the best. But again, I totally agree with the lack of chemistry. And honestly, they also, it could have been age difference too. Visually also didn't look right on camera.
I agree.
I was like, I had nothing against age difference, but he looked, honestly, I don't know how old he is, but he looked like he was in his mid 40s, and she still looks like she's in her 20s. And I'm like, this age visually,
well, she has she has a baby face. Like some people just do.
Yeah.
They have a young
I was
face.
like, she's young. And I was like, that's totally
I think she's
not
30
on her. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm like, just the visually, they look like there's a
Yeah,
big age
I agree.
gap.
Yeah, I'm gonna see how old he is. It says it online.
Yeah. I don't know. Us millennials, we look young.
35. So there's not that big a difference between them, but I agree that it did.
But he looks older.
It just didn't match. It didn't match, and they just gave them so little to do. Like it was very businessy. It was just like talking about the ice cream and talking about like, and so it's hard when a movie is very businessy. It's hard to make it romantic because unless the only way that those things work is if you have a you've got mail shop around the corner dynamic where they're communicating outside of, so there's business here and then there's the falling in love happening over here,
right?
You know, and so that can work. But if it's just like, oh, we're it's just too, it's really hard to make that dynamic work. A lot of times if they make it work, it's usually because it's a friends to lovers story. You know, they're really in love with each other the whole time, but they've been working together or whatever. And then, you know, and they don't want to mess it up. So sometimes that'll work. But, you know, I just seriously watched this movie. I'm just think, how did they get this greenlit? How did this get made? There was just no story. There was almost no conflict in this movie. It was literally like watching someone's home movie and of their trip to Italy. It's just like, why would I watch that?
And
like,
you know what? There could have been a good secondary story with the whole book. You know me, I'm a book lover, and
for sure.
It was
because she was reading that book.
The version of like not Eat, Pray, Love, but totally Eat, Pray, Love.
That's true.
It was like, and that was an interesting story. I was like, yeah, because you know we kind of had that story within a story. Let's learn about it. Let's see how that inspires her.
Yeah.
But like that totally fell flat.
Yeah,
and that had potential to be interesting.
Yeah, you're right. The only thing that did was it gave her the name for the ice cream.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, and that woman, her storyline, more interesting than hers.
Yeah.
Like, she started an entire new life in Italy, you know, with little experience, and she found her way over there and she found love and started a family. And I was like, yeah, show me that. That's more interesting than Danielle. Goodness.
So for me, the most inspirational thing about this movie was the fact that they got it made with so little story. There was just like, how did you get this script approved? It's just amazing to me. And I don't know. Yeah, it's just a missed opportunity because they had like, it's one thing if something is just bad, like it's just a bad idea and it's just a bad movie and whatever. But it's almost more frustrating when something has all of the pieces and it just doesn't work, you know, like these are, I like both of these actors. They're both charming in their own way, I think, but they didn't work together. The script, it always comes down to the script. And if the script is just not there, then it's just not going to work. And, you know, they had all these beautiful settings and they had everything in Italy. They had so much going for it. And it was a chore to watch, in my opinion.
Yeah, this was because quite honestly, I watched them out of order. So this was the second one I watched. I think I was like, okay, it was better than the first one that I watched. Mm-hmm. So, and it's like, yeah, you have Italy. You have an interesting story. Like, who doesn't love gelato? I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but like, you do have, like you said, you do have the pieces to make all these different factors of the story interesting. But they just they mention it, and then that's it. Nothing really comes about it. Like
a better version of this same kind of story is the Love, Romance, and Chocolates with Lacey Chabert. She goes to Brussels. She learns how to make chocolates from Lil Kemp. She has all these fun adventures. There's like a love triangle. There's just like more story. Like there's more stuff happening. Like it's more exciting. There's this competition with the royal family picking the great chocolates. And she's like, there's just more story. Here there was just nothing.
Right. And they're really just making new gelato to please a 9-year-old boy.
That's really what they were doing. And
like he's the main critic. Like really, that's what you're basing all this. ice cream
Nico,
making
the
off
9-year-old
of just for
boy.
Nico.
And they were acting like the fact that the other guy wanted chocolate is like, oh, you are the worst. And I'm like, I support your desire for simple ice cream. I am not a fan of this like convoluted, I don't know. I just like, I mean, to me, ice cream is one of those things that's hard to actually be like bad. It's like pizza. It's just like, but I would prefer simple.
Right. You know what's a good movie about Italy and pizza? Little Italy.
Oh yeah,
Hayden
you like that
Christensen.
one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Emma
It
Roberts.
is a sexy
loved that
movie.
one.
It's very sexy.
That's a great movie. I watch that all the time. Like that's a solid Italian American movie about a family business. There's nice balance of humor. There's action. There's football. I mean, soccer, whatever. That's a
at least there's a story in that. Like
there's
this
chemistry in that. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like there's a lot of factors and they made it way more interesting.
Yeah.
It's like you can do it. And this one just didn't.
Yeah. I would give this one like a 1.5. It was
right.
It was brutal, I thought. I mean, I don't know if I can give For Love and Honey a 2 and this 1.5. They were both about the same levels of boring for me. But I mean, I guess at least this didn't have the staring at walls. It was just like staring at ice cream. Staring at
which you couldn't even eat either.
You couldn't even eat. I don't know. They were both really bad in my opinion. But yeah. It was rough.
I like the honey one better. So I barely give this one 2 scoops.
As that Savory Paris, Greek Recipe for Love, 2 Scoops of Italy were really, really fun and entertaining to watch. And then we have Jonathan Garza says, I thoroughly enjoyed Savory Paris. I thought A Greek Recipe for Love was good, but not great. The other 2 were not failures, but I doubt I would watch either of them a second time. Where are you going? Maria says, I'd say good for one-time watches, but other than that, quite dull. Amy Parker says, loved, let's see. I'm sorry. She says, loved Savory in Paris. Enjoyed Greek Recipe for Romance. Did not hate the other 2. Like others. Enjoyed the scenery, food, culture, etc. But story, chemistry, meh. I don't expect them all to please me. I'm just glad to have new movies to watch, and I love experiencing places I've never been. Anne, our good friend Anne says, I only watched 1 so far, but better season choice than June Weddings for me. Yeah, I mean, I do agree. Because I don't, almost never like a wedding movie. Caroline, she says she agrees Savory in Paris was the best, no question. Andrew Dunn says Savory in Paris was so good. It felt very fresh and unique. Mary says Joy's is the only one worth watching. So that's Savory in Paris. Reese says only saw 2, but didn't love either one, hoping to watch the other 2 still. Janessa Jones says 2 Scoops of Italy she says 2 Scoops of Italy, number 1. Hunter King has never disappointed me. Then next, Savory in Paris, 3 For Love and Honey, and 4 A Greek Recipe for Romance. The writing felt like an acquired movie and was annoyingly predictable. Loved the setting of the ending kiss, though. So there we go. That's everyone's thoughts. So let us know what you think in the comment section or on Twitter. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And this is always a delight. I was so happy when you said that you would come on. Because I just love any chance to chat with you. So thank you so much. And if people want to follow you on socials, stuff like that, how do they do?
Everyone, I'm still at Serafini TV. Great. I haven't gone anywhere.
Very good. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really, really, really appreciate that. And if you are watching YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 8K subscribers. So please subscribe. We appreciate it. And then we have the Patreon group, which is the biggest way you can support us. And you can be part of fun watch-alongs where you get to hear from the talent and from the writers. We have Catherine Davis on in next month. We're going to be watching Santa's Got Style, which is so fun. So that'll be and any level of Patreon can be part of the watch-along. Really fun. And we just have a lot of other exclusive reviews and early content and bonuses. So please, 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 please check out the Patreon. And we have the merch store. You get tons of fun Hallmark-inspired designs. Take a look at that. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.